From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go, held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights.
That's how we go. So the cool thing is, guys, is we have a huge inspiration. He's gonna deflect this, but he's a huge inspiration to me. The reason why is because the level of service that he gives. If you've been around on the podcast for any bit of time, you know that I'm such a huge fan of the Four Seasons. And Four Seasons service is just on a completely different level. And we get to sit down with a man who has a Four Seasons background, but had a change in in profession, but was able to apply those type of concepts, and is now. I didn't realize how famous you were, Michael. And so I would just want to welcome to the show, Michael Dreebin. But seriously, I was talking with one of my buddies in Utah, and your name came up, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, everybody knows Michael Dreebin." And I was like, "Wait a second, he's my neighbor. What are you talking about?" And they were like, "No, I mean anybody who has a car that is on that level, and we'll talk about those levels of cars, knows Michael Dreebin. He's a celebrity in that realm." So, first of all, welcome to the show, and you're a celebrity. So I wanted to let you know that.
It's great to hear it for the first time from you, Kelly.
Well,
I'm remiss.
Well, it blows me away because I saw it. I experienced it myself, right? So I experienced it. You know, I had you work on one of my vehicles. I don't know if you did my wife's too, but you did mine, and it was like everything else pales in comparison. I've had other things done, but it pales in comparison. There's just a level of service. And when I learned about the Four Seasons background from you, all those things made sense. Take me to the original as far as did you consciously adopt Four Seasons kind of mentality as you moved into your own business?
Yeah, it was ingrained. It was instilled. It was an indoctrination. It was a CULT as a young hotelier out of hotel school, having studied in Europe, coming to my first couple of big league jobs, and then emanating to the level of Four Seasons. It's just something you grabbed onto the brass ring and you held on tight, and one had to learn quick or you were chewed up and spit out. So I adapted very, very quickly. It was a survival mechanism in the 80s in the hotel business. You grabbed on and you hung on, or you were in the wake.
Well, when most people talk about culture, right? Cultures that are on fire, like when we see Four Seasons, the attention to detail is unbelievable. The personal service, unbelievable.
Sure.
I even wrote about it in my book. And from one experience that I had, they have a lemonade that they serve up until 12:30 in Maui at the Four Seasons. Yeah. And after 12:30, they don't serve it anymore. I think it's 12:30 or 1 o'clock or whatever it is. Well, I remember reading Isidore Sharp's book that said that he gives his staff an unlimited budget to make people happy. So I decided that I wanted to test it. So I called down at 1 o'clock in the morning because I was thirsty, and I said, I want some of that lemonade that's only served and they brought me up some regular tea lemonade. And my wife was like, don't do this, just drink it. And I said, no, I want to see if they'll do what they say they'll do. So I called back down. I said, no, I want the special one. I want the one that comes out in the lobby. And then they not only brought it up to me, but they brought me the directions on how to be able to make it at home. Mm-hmm. And it became this experience. And it was a memory. Mm-hmm. When people talk about culture, they break it down like you did. And you said it really quick, which was the first 4 letters of that word. And some people take it as a negative. Sure. Some people take it as a positive. When you went through the indoctrination into this different level of service. What was the first thing that kind of, that you learned in it?
Well, we had a roadmap. At the time, the Four Seasons Clift in San Francisco was a mobile 5-star and automobile club 5-diamond property, one of only 13 in the United States at the time. So it's all on paper. There are specific, measurable, time-bound tasks, behaviors that one meets or doesn't. So there's no gray area. And all roads led to meeting and exceeding the book. And so we had to maintain that standard. So it's pretty simple, yet complicated when you at least have a template for success, whatever that means. One can gravitate, pull people in, and work toward having that. And you mentioned the autonomy of the employees being able to do whatever it takes. That just gives one a sense of freedom and desire and drive to excel. I can do this. I can do this. And I take it to this day as a challenge of how can I meet that? As early as 20 minutes ago on the phone with a potential client, just working through her issues, whether it's me or anybody else, trying to just solve their concerns or exceed whatever it is they called me for, to just take that to the next level is the fun, the joy, the challenge.
Was that something that you were raised with, or was it something that you became aware of as you went along?
Great question. So raised in a tumultuous, sporadic, chaotic household where there was a lot of adaptation, quick, on the fly. So I was taught early on to be spontaneous and to adapt.
Well,
So
you seem to have
I had an open mind to whatever's coming at me. We're going to accept this challenge. We're going to deal, cope, and move on. So yeah, I think a big part of that. I wasn't raised by a scientist and taught structure and format and rules. No, that didn't exist in my household as a kid.
Where'd you get the positive side of it? Because a lot of times when you were
Sure.
even saying it, you were smiling while you were
Yeah.
saying tumultuous, you were saying that you had
Sure.
to adapt, all those things. Some people could translate that as, I went through a lot of hard times, but you seem to have a positive outlook on it. Where do you think that came from?
The hotel business is boot camp. It's the military.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I studied in Switzerland. I did an apprenticeship. It's called a stagiaire, where you do a time-bound apprenticeship, 3 months, 6 months. And I was one of 2 Americans in a Swiss kitchen at a 5-star hotel in Gstaad, Switzerland. And they had me up by my kerchief off the ground because they were just so resentful that I was American and got to be in their kitchen. And so it was trial by fire, and it was very aggressive, and it was 120 hours a week, 7 days a week for 6 months. And if you blinked, you got spit out. So that's where I got it from. It was the military.
Well, when people talk about this, when we first grew our company, I came from a military background, from not me being in the military, but my pops being in the military, and we stayed super, super strict. It was very regimented, every single thing written down, all those things, and there was resistance to it at times. Have you ever seen a culture that is elite that doesn't have that kind of component to it?
No. I think to answer your question, I wasn't raised with it, and I craved it. And add a little ADHD and Adderall in there too. The structure was great for me. It was the first time, I think, in my life I was able to find focus and direction, and especially in kitchens, because I started out doing culinary, and so it was very repetitive. And so for anybody who knows about those types of afflictions, it's the repetitive, consistent behaviors that actually create structure. versus the chaos and anything that can ensue from that.
So the chaos caused you, almost funneled you towards like
The structure.
the structure.
In the kitchens.
Got it.
And then you take that for 3-5 years, got a hotel restaurant institutional management degree with a food service background, came out on the other end of that wanting to be a hotelier, a hotel manager in food and beverage. And so that's where I got to start to practice the left side of my brain, more creativity. And that, I think, is the tie-in from the service and execution standpoint. But as a youngster, being raised and trained and groomed and disciplined, because I didn't have it as a juvenile. I was a bit of a delinquent and went down lots of other roads. And even in the hotel industry for 15 years, it was the Anthony Bourdain School of Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. And eventually I matured and grew out of it.
What other roads did you go down? Because I'm around you. We
Yeah.
don't hang out that much,
Yeah.
but I don't see Michael
wouldn't
going
know.
down the right. Yeah, that's
well, getting married 10 years ago really helped to a
Okay.
very straight-laced
Thank you, Ann.
woman.
Thank you, Ann.
Oh, the blessing of my life. I am a significantly better person.
So take me back to
and
young
stay.
Michael, like young
Yeah.
Michael when you're.
Oh,
When
gosh. Had sex for the first time at 12 years old with a 18-year-old. I was a latchkey kid, lived in a big house. Both my parents were gone, and nobody came home till 5:30. So my house was the playground after school, and spin the bottle was the game du jour. And we had jacuzzis and pools and a big view. And so I was the tall pygmy, if you will, in a middle-class environment. I was the more affluent of the of the low end of all my poor friends. We were the medium ones.
Okay.
Not rich by any means, but we were above poor, and therefore my house was the place to come. And so smoked pot as a young kid. I smoked more pot from 12 to 16 than I ever did in the rest of my life. Had a couple of friends that didn't make it out alive, and some that were mentally incapacitated as a result of ickiness. Then I got my first job was at 15 at Filippi's Pizza Grotto, and in order to work
down in PB?
I worked at the one in El Cajon.
You did.
I did.
Okay.
I worked at the one in El Cajon, and I will never forget the time I came in stoned one time, and the dough was in a big giant Hobart, and it had risen, and I pushed the button, and the dough flowed over the bowl, and I put my hand in, and the wheel came around and caught my wrist, and that's where the saying, "Don't operate heavy machinery under the influence" came from. And I never did it again.
So explain your parents, explain your parents to me.
Yeah.
They were gone, they were working, which a lot of times in that
Latchkey
genre,
kid,
right?
sure.
Latchkey. What were they doing at the time? Both of them working to be able to get you the higher middle class status.
Yeah, so my father had a rental car business, started with one unit on the corner of Midway and Rosecrans downtown, or down by the sports arena, and it grew to 18 offices from Denver to Seattle to San Diego, and it was called Trans Rent-A-Car, and he was the operations director. He had two partners, but his job was to open new offices and more of a managerial role. So he had apartments in all the different cities. So when I was, and this wasn't until I was 12-ish, he got into that. He was a used car salesman prior to that, sold Chevys and, Chevys down at City Chevrolet down on University Boulevard. And once he started to raise our family's stature, if you will, he would have apartments in Las Vegas and Denver and Seattle and Los Angeles. And so on the weekends, we would fly up and we'd see him at the apartment. So I got to go to lots of baseball games, and, but we were always we learned to travel really early on. We learned to eat really, really well early on. And so I got the idea to be able to, wow, I love restaurants. I love food. I should go do this. And it took me 25 years to realize, no, I didn't want to be the help. I wanted to have the resources to be able to go and enjoy them.
Oh, wow.
And so that was a huge, huge come full circle moment for me, because I thought, oh, I love food. I'll learn to cook. Right? And I know I might be rambling here.
No, that's good. Because so many people go through that. They think, hey, I love music, so I need to go and play music. And it's like, no, you need to listen to music.
So the best way to frame this was a story that I heard 15 years ago. A young woman in Maine grew up with lobsters and lobster fishing, and everyone around her loved lobsters. And that's just what you did. You pulled lobsters out of the ocean. The fishermen came in. Dad had a bathtub full of lobsters, and every Sunday there'd be a clam bake, a lobster bake, right? So one time, this 9-year-old sees a big red, dark red live lobster. And she sees her dad put the lobster into a big pot. Lobster screams, yells, turns colors, and now it's a beige, fuchsia, pink color. And the young 9-year-old says to herself, wow, what just happened? How did that lobster, what occurred? Well, fast forward, she became a marine biologist, did her doctorate studies on what? Why do lobsters change colors? Right? I was a finicky eater. My dad took me to a Chinese restaurant one time, and I learned to eat paper beef. And I unwrapped the foil and pulled the little beef cubes out of there, and I all of a sudden loved Chinese food. And from that, I thought, I'm going to be a chef. And that's usually where those things spark from. Young people will have a transformational experience that extends throughout their life. And that was, and if you go back and peel the onion on a lot of people that we know, it was something, an instance, an occurrence, something someone said when they were very young and influential with a real soft brain, right? Boom. And you have kids, so I know you see it. You watch how their likes and passions and directions flow.
Yeah.
And it's as a result of something you or Brooklyn might have said or done, or you have a huge influence on the circle, the community around you, and you've spawned many a salmon upstream.
Well, what was the first step into it? Was it? I mean, you said Filippi's.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? Because I remember
Filippi's
seeing
Pizza Grotto.
Filippi's. So was that the first into the food side of it? And then, what made you want to go into, because there's a difference between food and culinary.
Yeah.
There's a difference between culinary and then the hospitality
Sure.
industry. So where was that stair step?
My mother's brother, he passed away last year, was a dentist in Monte Carlo for 60 years. In the late 40s, when he graduated dental school from Northwestern in Chicago, there was a lot of anti-Semitism in the United States. He couldn't get a job here in the United States because he was Jewish, and he was pissed. And so he applied to Denmark to a dental practice. He said, F this, I'm leaving the United States. So he went to Denmark, worked for a year or two, and then got a job in Monaco as a dentist under a man, Claude, who'd been doing it for 15 years or so. And so he became a dentist to the stars in Monte Carlo. And in those days, every 4 years, American citizens had to come back to renew their citizenship. And so one year, when I was 18, he came back, and I was a punk stoner, working in a restaurant, living in Pacific Beach, doing all sorts of heinous crimes. And he took a look at me and he said, you're coming with me. And he picked me up by the collar. And 2 months later, I was in a French immersion course in Villefranche in the south of France, just south of Nice, north of Monaco. And I learned French in 45 days, fluent in 45 days. It was a massive immersion for corporate people that had to learn it. And he got me a job at the Hotel de Paris in Monaco, doing an apprenticeship for 3 months. And that was the stepping stone for me. And then after that, he got me another position at the Palace Hotel in Gstaad, Switzerland, where I worked for 6 months, nonstop.
Was it tough to leave the first one to go to the second one?
No, again, young, soft brain still.
How old are you at this time?
I was 20.
20.
20.
Wow. So
Yeah.
now you're fluent at French.
Correct.
And then 6 months later, you go on to Switzerland.
Correct.
Okay. So take me to Switzerland.
Yeah. World-class hotel. To this day, a world-class hotel. The glitterati, Arab sheiks, all of it. Sean Connery, Liza Minnelli, everyone who is everyone went to Gstaad in the winter. Gstaad in the winter. Look it up. Anyone who knows, still is the place to be. And I was in the bowels of the hotel where they would get pallets and pallets and pallets of artichokes and tomatoes and asparagus. And my job was and potatoes. And my job was to peel, tourneau is the French term, with a little curved knife, was to peel potatoes perfectly. And the chef would come down every couple of days and he'd put his hand into my bucket and he'd throw them against the wall and tell me to do it again. Peeling artichokes just to get the little heart. It's called the fond, F-O-N-D, the little nice part at the bottom. You throw away everything else and you sit there and peel till you're bloody. And I did pallets and pallets and pallets of those for months on end until I graduated into being able to come up into the kitchen to be able to wash pots and pans.
Was this a Karate Kid moment for you? Was there a part of Michael that was saying, why did my uncle do this? I'm peeling potatoes, things like that. Or did you see the larger picture and did you see the growth happen? Or was there times where you were pissed because you're down in the basement, you're having to do all this manual labor? And this is the manual labor. A lot of times as a young kid, you're not seeing that this is a foundational part of elite service.
Yeah, I understood.
You did?
I got it. Yeah, rewind a little bit. When my father had the rental car company, his company was a trailblazer in the rental car industry in the day where they were self-insured. So back in the day, you had to be 21 years old and have a credit card to rent a car. Their company said, no problem. Anybody can rent a car if you're over 18 and have a driver's license. So back in the day when Pintos were the car,
the runabout,
people would come to San Diego to go down to Tijuana for cancer treatments using Laetrile was the drug. It was an experimental cancer drug made from peach pits. And yeah, exactly. And you wonder how the supplement industry started down there. So I was always on the payroll at my father's business. My sister and I always got a paycheck, and I had to go down and work on my father's car lot doing what? Washing cars. To know where that money came from, the structure. You're going to work for your money. So from the time I was 13 to, I could tell him F off, 16, 17, I would have to go from high school at Grossmont High School. I would go to Grossmont Center. I would take a bus to Horton Plaza. I would get on the payphone and call the rental company. They would send the van over. I'd get there at about 2:30. I'd wash cars till about 5 o'clock. And then my father would be on the lot and he'd wave goodbye to me in his big, long Cadillac. He'd drive to El Cajon without me. I would finish my shift. I'd get back on the bus. I'd go to Grossmont Center, and my father would pick me up at about 8 o'clock at night at the shopping center. And I had to do that every Wednesday during high school to know where that money came from. So I understood, to answer your question, I understood that there was a bigger picture here. Was I pissed? Yes.
Yeah.
Was I resentful? Was I a punk? Absolutely.
Was there anyone that related to you when you're there in Switzerland? You're an American that's there. Did you have anyone that was sometimes people call it a bitch buddy, a person that is like, can you believe? And obviously you understand the larger picture. You're moving towards it. I didn't even realize that tourneau meant to peel. That's what it means?
Turn.
Got it. I didn't even know that.
Tour, le monde, the world. It turns.
Okay.
Tour.
So when you were tourneauing.
Tourneau is rounding around the potato, peeling it off, getting the little eyes out.
Bit.
Tourneau. Same thing with the heart of the artichoke. You tour it, you tourneau around to get all the other leaves and hair off of it so that you just have the meat, the fond.
How long of you doing that till you graduated and you said, and I had the opportunity. I love your the way that you position it. You had the opportunity then to go into the restaurant in the back and wash the dishes.
Yeah. 3 months, 3.5 months, probably. Yeah. Getting back to your question, I had a bitch buddy. And to this day, we're still friends.
Really?
Because it's like doing the SEAL program, right? This was the military. This was badass. And so they accepted that season 2 Americans. And Tony Syndico, who I'm friends with to this day, was a significantly more accomplished chef. He'd been to the same university I went to, Johnson & Wales, went through the same culinary program. And Tony was the executive sous chef at the Helmsley Palace in New York City under Leona Helmsley, if that rings a bell. Her and her husband were preeminent slumlord New York hoteliers. You go back and look at Helmsley. Oh my gosh, I'm having flashbacks talking about this. And so Tony was my mentor, and he was also my protector and my savior, and took a lot of blows that I didn't take that he protected me from.
So when you hear a credo, right? So we hear times where the Ritz-Carlton has ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes the people in the organization don't see the organization the same way that the client does. So the client facing is like, oh my God, this is the greatest service in the world. Right. Whereas sometimes the employees are like, you don't understand what we go through to make sure that you have a great dinner on your plate and a great experience. Take me back to Switzerland. So do you get to start washing pots and pans or dishes first, or is it both one and the same?
The dirtier, the stinkier is where you start.
Okay.
And then you get to graduate. So yeah, definitely pots and pans and hot pots and pans that the chefs are throwing at you saying, bring me more, bring me more, bring me more during dinner service, during lunch service. So it's hectic, it's chaotic, and it's just more and more and more and more and more. If, the most current example of that I can think of is The Bear.
Yes.
Right? If you've seen The Bear.
Oh my gosh.
I had PTSD just watching it.
It was tough. Like, you remember the
first season.
Well, the first season, and then the holiday episode.
Yeah.
The holiday episode with the mom, that hit me.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, that episode, I had to turn it off.
Yeah.
But The Bear hit me too because Will Guidara was on the second season. He was one of the executive producers, and he helped to be able to shape the kind of how it was moving along. From pots and pans, where do you go?
You go to garde manger, which is the salad area.
Okay.
And so it's prepping tomatoes and celery and lettuces and cold items. And so you start out in the salad department. There's 8 areas of a kitchen, and salads are the first place that you'd graduate to from the kitchen or from the dish room.
What are the
scullery? It's
called scullery?
Scullery is the nautical term for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the 8 components?
Yeah. So you would start out in garde manger, and then from garde manger, let me go back a little bit here because it's been a while. So much for car detailing. Let me put on that other hat for a minute. My toque. TOCQUE is the white tall hat.
What's
Is
the
a
what's the
toque.
purpose? What's the purpose of that one? Is it aesthetic?
I'd be making it up if I told you I
Okay.
knew the exact answer.
I always
if you go
wondered.
back to the 17 and 1800s, Lescoffier, who is the father of French cuisine,
Okay.
Lescoffier wore a toque, a hat, and it probably had some significance to the Vatican, to the popes,
Okay.
to a pope hat, right? Somebody somewhere, if I'm just making stuff up, probably brought religion into it, because where isn't religion? Yeah, so that would be that. So from garde-manger, you have the, which is the salad cold area. You have saucier, the sauce station.
Okay.
You have a poissonnier, the fish station. Le bouffe, the meat station. Grillade, the grill, the hot grill. That's 5. You have the dessert station, 6, and there's 2 more in there that just aren't coming to me in this in this moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Did you
8
know-
different departments. And so what one would do on an apprenticeship where it's accelerated is you'd get time in each department so that you'd be well-rounded, so that when you finished your time, you'd get a certificate. I would get a certificate that I was proficient as an apprentice in each department, which, fast forward, when I came back from Europe and went to college and got out of college, my first job was with Marriott Hotels. I did a 1-year training program, and they do the exact same European structure in hotels, where you start out where? In the laundry, down in the basement. So in kitchens, you're peeling potatoes in the basement. In hotels, you're doing laundry in the basement. And then once you graduate from laundry, where's the next worst place you could possibly be? Room service. Where I worked at the LaGuardia Marriott Hotel.
Whoa.
Yeah, in 1985.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Iran-Contra, Ronald Reagan, you name it. It was crazy. Cocaine cowboys.
Was this child's play for you when you came back to America? Because they were doing a version of European training,
Sure.
but you were at the epicenter. So was this, when I say child's play, I'm not degrading it, but when you went into it, were you like, I've been through this?
I'd already been to the bigs.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in the bigs.
So when you went to
This was
Marriott,
child
you were
play.
like, come on, come bring me more. I got this.
Well, I mean, it was Manhattan, it was New York.
Yes.
So it was pretty intense, and because just it's New York, which is a totally different vibe.
What'd you have to learn? Because you grew up in San Diego, and you couldn't be more different as far as culture. We got San Diego, hey, we're chilling, hanging out. We need to get to the beach in 15 minutes. We're fine. New York is not that way.
My European training purged me of my surf rat. Yeah, my boogie boarder bad boy just poof. And I always had an edge, and I refined it. I think it got more developed in Europe. My uncle Arthur, the dentist, he exposed me to life like I didn't know existed, like nobody knew existed.
What did you see? What were some of the first things that you saw that was like, I didn't realize?
Took me to a sex club in Nice.
How old are you at this
Because
time?
it had been a while. 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I was ready. But in Europe, especially in France and Germany, there's, and it's still there to this day, underground clubs.
Okay.
He and his wife took me to a wonderful club at about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and there was a bar, and everyone kind of went into. It was a small place, and everyone went into the bar, and you'd have a drink, and then if you were going to participate in the activities, the madame would come over and have a little conversation, and he did whatever he did, and told her to take care of the boy, and she whisked me downstairs into a basement jungle area and put me in a toga and 2 hours later, I emerged, and based on the experience and the time that I had was the fee that my uncle paid.
What did you find out about the elite side of, because when you go, we spent time in Monaco, we went there for the Grand Prix, and it's a different life. Like,
Sensibility.
Well, what did you experience? Because I remember when we went to Pamplona, and I went to the beach at Pamplona, and then we did Saint-Tropez. And I remember Saint-Tropez, it was different than what I had ever experienced, where, we were around cars, we were around lifestyle, because we lived in Vegas, and Vegas was very opulent and things like that. But when we went to Saint-Tropez, I remember the cruise liners that I thought were cruise liners that weren't, that were private vessels. And then them pulling into port and me thinking, oh, wow, that's a Carnival cruise line, but it's not, it's a private vessel. And then them pulling their Rolls off of it, and then pulling their Ferrari off of it, and then driving down the streets of Saint-Tropez, which was 2 inches on each side of a $350,000 to $500,000 car, and they're doing it like it's nothing.
Correct.
What did you get exposed to as far as lifestyle that way, that you started to see that these people that experienced this also expected a level of service that maybe we didn't have at Filippi's Pizza and El Cajon?
Yeah. I love your questioning, your line of questioning, the thought process behind and where you're going. This trajectory is prescient. It's really prescient. And you're it's just good. I have to say, it's just good. You're sparking so much. The word souvenir means to remember. It's a remembrance.
Is that a French word?
It is.
It is.
Souvenir says to remember. That's why you grab a souvenir so that you can what?
Remember. Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm having a souvenir moment with you right now.
Yeah.
So it's about expectation. And you kind of hit on you asked me 3 questions. If I can rewind just a little, what did I learn? How did I go from San Diego to this? And how did I prepare for it? What occurred, I think, was your initial question. And it started with, we're raised whether you're in, Texas, Utah, here, we're raised with dogma, mores. We're raised with our parents' values or not. We're raised with whatever that quagmire is, right? The cauldron. And it's just different in different places. And if one's traveled, one realizes that it's just different in Western Europe. And Western Europe is a significantly more open society. They kicked all the Puritans out of Britain and they sent them to Boston. We're raised in a puritanistic environment. Body shaming, fear around religion. There's so many mores that I think, and I'm generalizing here in a huge way, that American, more Midwestern culture, Protestantism, dictates certain doctrine. And as Americans, we're raised with that. And until one goes to Cairo or the Middle East or Berlin or Bali, and you realize through travel and experiencing other cultures, faiths and religions and belief structure, systems, until you see that and realize that, hey, they do okay the way they're doing it. We're not the only ones, right? We tend to be isolationists in that we think that we're the best. We think, our military, our education, schooling, all of it, we just have this impression that we're hot shit. And I'm here to tell you that at 20 years old, 21 years old, I realized that it's not all that. My parents did what they could do with what they knew, but other people know other things. And so what I got to learn, and where the onion really got peeled back for me, was to be exposed to uber, ultra wealth. I mean, when I finished the the apprenticeship at the Palace Hotel in the kitchen, during the summer season, I got a job as a maître d' in a very exclusive nightclub called the Cesarii in Gstaad for the winter season. It opened at midnight and it closed at 8 a.m. And it was all bottle service. And the DJ was a famous DJ from London, and they brought in people from all over. And don't ask me how, but somehow they put me on the front door working the velvet rope at 21 years old, screening the Maharajas. And that opened my eyes. That opened my eyes. The people that came into that club were the same people that took the helicopter from Saint-Tropez to Gstaad to be able to rock and roll and party. Yeah. And it was disco inferno.
What was one of the first things that you saw, like, an experience that it kind of broke open for you? When I say that, I give you an example. I was with one of my buddies. His name is JP, and he happened to...
I've met JP.
Yeah. So you know him, and you know his lifestyle, right? And I've been around him for years, and my dad came with me for the first time, and he hung out. We do a motorcycle ride for his birthday every year, and JP said, he's telling a joke, and we walk up in the middle of it, and he's like, yeah, Nelson said this to me, and then Brad said this to me, and he's back and forth, and he said, Nelson said that I need a job, JP, and he was like, you're unhireable. And he said, well, what could I hire you for? And he said, well, I could even just be your driver. And then he laughed, and Brad laughed, and they moved on, and we walked away, and my pops never was a respecter of persons, but I said, Pops, did you realize what he was saying? And he said, oh, he was talking about Brad and Nelson and all the things. And I said, he was talking about Brad Pitt and Nelson Mandela. But that rolled off his tongue. I've got used to it, and I had to get used to it. I was freaked out at first when I'm a young kid. What were some of the experiences that you went through that when you saw it, it opened your eyes, but you can't react at the time because you've got to act like, no, this is normal.
Yeah, this is such flashback.
Here comes a souvenir.
This is good. This is good. Yeah, I served Sean Connery, Roger Daltrey, Liza Minnelli, Michael Jackson, all during that winter at the Cesarii, and on and on and on and on. Bottle service, organizing, all of it. And you touched on this too. One of your questions that you started to say was, what was it? I think at that point that really was a breakout, was your term a breakout. A lot of it around sexuality. There were a lot of Middle Eastern, very, very, very wealthy people, young people, princes mostly, and they loved young boys. And they traveled with their harems of boys. And I had never in my life been exposed to gay sex like openly in a club, and just how they would manage their entourages and the wealth. And then imagine what goes on back at the yacht.
Yeah.
And this is in the 80s. And then you hear these stories of the Sultan in Brunei and bringing, trapping women to come to the country of Brunei, and their parents trying to extricate them. And, I experienced this as a young person, and it was transformational.
Uh-huh.
And, you take the service component and the expectation and levels. That's just what prepared me. This was before I even started. I came back and worked for Marriott, which was, dogged compared to, then I went to work for Dunphy Hotels, and then I went to work for Four Seasons. And then I went to work for Morton Steakhouse, and that's probably another podcast. But
so when you went Marriott, Dunphy, and then Four Seasons was the next.
Correct.
So when you went into that, you're already primed as far as service level. And I'll rewind it for a second. I remember when we were building one of our first locations for our business, I asked the contractor a stupid question because, well, my mom said there's no stupid questions. But the contractors were, a friend of mine was the owner of the Mandalay Bay. And so his construction company built the Mandalay Bay also. I happened to ask him, do you know any contractors? Well, he laughed and said, so the people who built the Mandalay Bay built our first location.
Oh, nice.
And when I asked the general manager that was on the project at the time, I said, can I change this about the wall? He stopped me. He said, you could do anything you want. It's just how much do you want to pay?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized a side of service and attention to detail that it wasn't possible. It sometimes was that I didn't have the financial prowess to be able to be in that spot.
Or even the knowledge or the mindset to know what you want. Going back to Stan Bromley in the Four Seasons, it's anticipating the guest's needs before they know what they need. That's the vision. That's what this is.
Was it stages for you when you were in the club and things like that, where when you become aware of it and a person says, hey, I want this, and now you're logging that in and anticipating it for the next one? Is that
Totally.
the way
It's repetition. So it's all a continuum. In a restaurant, the food gets ordered, it gets delivered to the back door, it gets put in the storeroom, it gets refrigerated, it gets prepped, it goes onto the line, it gets cooked, and then it gets put up into the window, and then the waiter takes it out to the table, and the guest eats it. It's a continuum. And service is very mechanical, it's very structured, it's very organized. I have this guest, whether it's their first time or a repeat guest, it's what research can I do? How can I figure out what their likes and dislikes are? Concierge 101. And then how do I log? What is our mechanism, our systems, our controls for managing their nuances? Is it a dirty martini? Is it, whatever they like? How do they like their caviar? And then it's repetition. It's a continuum. And service is always going to be that way. And so one is, and then you have the template to begin with, the foundational template. And so it's just like, how savvy are you? And when you have the blank slate, you can have whatever you want. It's just a question of your threshold for pain or cost. That's when the creativity comes out.
Did you start to feel freedom when you got to the Four Seasons then? Because when you go and you do your European training and you go through that, this is unbelievable. And you go through that, then you go to the Marriott, which is, again, we love Marriott.
They have their purpose.
They have their purpose, but for you, it was like, okay, cool, I'm good.
Foundational. Structure, foundation.
Yeah. You go to the Dunphy. Hey, I'm good. Maybe it's
the minor leagues.
Yeah. And then you go to, you come into the Four Seasons of what year?
1987.
So
88.
This is right when they're taking off. The cool thing is I've been noticing so many parallels with my life with the Four Seasons, meaning that I was born in 1975. That's when the Four Seasons started, was 1975. There were so many different firsts when you talked about concierge. The Four Seasons was the first company to ever bring a concierge company-wide. Mm-hmm. When you got to the Four Seasons, back to that question, did you feel then free to be able to, now you're going to be able to apply all these things?
Sure. You spoke earlier about Isidore Sharp and Canadian, Jewish, family-oriented, started out small. Free is a word to describe it. I would say seen and regarded as a hotelier, regarded as a professional, regarded as worthy, because I was there. Somebody chose me to be there. Therefore, they had a beautiful structure for human resources, for hiring, for development. And that was the first time Freedom. I wouldn't say free as much as seen. Seen. And when one is seen, one is empowered. Wow. And when one is empowered to do what? I mean, it's the service business. It's just service, whether I'm cleaning your rims, right? Or changing your sheets. I'm empowered to do the best that I can because it's innate.
How did they
And service is innate.
How did they empower you this way? Because I maybe I'm paraphrasing it, but I've just been such a huge fan. Like we studied, we studied the Four Seasons. We actually patterned our company a lot after those.
I didn't know that.
When we did that, even down to the fact of what we called eavesdropping. So we would have, and Anne's going to laugh at this. She experienced it. She didn't know it was happening. But we would have the front desk staff, we would have the assistants, and we would have other stylists eavesdrop on every conversation that was going on in the place. Okay. And then we would write down everything that happened in their file. So that way, if their dog died and they were having that conversation,
beautiful.
Next time when they came in, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? How was your vacation? Whatever it was. And that was all patterned after Four Seasons.
I wasn't aware of that.
And so there were so many different aspects, but when I say the paraphrasing, I paraphrase saying that Isidore Sharp gave a unlimited budget to make people happy to his employees, meaning that the porter could comp your whole entire stay if he felt that you weren't having a great experience. Now, I was on the back end of this though, because we worked at the Mandalay Bay years ago, and they had the Four Seasons, which had Charlie Palmer in it.
I've stayed
You're
there.
familiar?
Yeah, eaten there, stayed there.
And the challenge with this was we would have clients come in from the Four Seasons, and they would go to the front desk and say, I didn't like the temperature of the water that they gave to me, and they would comp them our service and take it off.
Yeah.
Our friends that worked at Charlie Palmer's, people would say, my coffee was 3 degrees, not to the temperature, and they would have to comp the whole meal and eat it. That's the side that a lot of business owners are afraid of. But what did you feel as far as that freedom to have an unlimited budget to make people happy?
I don't recall it as such.
Was that spoken about, or am I paraphrasing that?
I'm just a microcosm of one person's remembrances of the occasion.
Souvenirs.
So I would frame it this way. So I was a banquet manager.
Got it.
And I ran all of the special events, banquets, parties that occurred. And I did that for 7 years at the Four Seasons Cliff, just in banquets and catering. Wow. And the goal, as you just stated, was whatever it took. I certainly remember having the autonomy to adjust bills, to make it right. I don't recall a time where someone said, 4 of the entrees, the fillets were overcooked, and me comping, dinner for 30 people, and feeling good about that, or even being able to. I don't recall having that kind of autonomy to do that. I do recall being able to take the 3 or 4 steaks off the menu, offer a bottle of wine, comp their room for the night, or do whatever it takes. But it was really about triage and to be able to assess the level. I think you might be kind of generalizing. You call it paraphrasing. I would say had the ability to triage what it was going to take. What is it going to take to ensure, because Stan Bromley would say, the first thing they remember is the last thing you said. The first thing they'll remember is the last thing you said. So if I were to say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make you happy, and this is what I think I'd like to do, what is it you'd like for me to do? When they're telling their friends 3 days from now about their experience at the Four Seasons, that's what they're going to remember. The first thing they're going to remember is the last thing I did on the way out the door.
Wow.
And so today, I detailed an Airstream for a gentleman, and on the way out the door, I said, "Now I've inspected it. Would you like to go over it with me?" "No, Michael, I trust." I said, "If you look over this thing for the next 3 or 4 days, 5 days, if you see anything that I could do differently or better, will you please call me? Let me know, because I'll come back and I'll make it right for you."
Wow.
And he's like, "Dude, we're fine. It's just an Airstream." I said, "No, I want to make sure that you're thrilled." So hopefully the last thing that I said is going to be what he's going to remember. And if he finds something wrong with it, chances are that's just a ploy. It's a manipulation. That guy was so cool. How could I call him? It's fine. Get over myself. And that's a switch. So I don't have to be the best detailer, the best hotelier. I just have to be super connected at this level where you go, God, that sincerity is real. That drive to get it right, to serve is real. Most people back off of themselves and go, "Oh man, I can't, I'll go hassle with somebody else, This guy's big. This is the big leagues, and it puts people in their place and I learned early on to be on a par, on a level with the Maharajas.
What was the difference in expectation when you're talking about the Maharajas? What was the difference in expectation than even the elite? Because there's levels to it, right? When you're talking about that level, when you're talking about Monaco, things like that, that level of wealth is sometimes what most people will never see. I remember taking a picture.
CO2 percentile.
Yeah. Well, I remember we were in Cannes, and we went to the port. So there was 2 ports, and we joked, Brooklyn and I said, there's the poor side and then the rich side. And the poor side was anywhere from like 80 to 150 feet.
Exactly.
And then the rich side, you couldn't even fathom how big these things were. And I remember taking a picture.
They're buoyed off, sure.
And I said to Brooklyn, I said, you got to stand near, because one of them had come in, and I said, you got to stand here, because if I take a picture, you're not going to understand. Yeah. What did you find in the difference in expectation? Like, if you can even quantify it.
Yeah. People of wealth are raised with wealth, and there's generational money. There's generational experiences. If you know anything about, like, say, Newport, Rhode Island, or Connecticut, big wealth. If you ever watched Billions, on HBO, big wealth. I see it daily in Rancho Santa Fe here. Billionaires, huge wealth, and it's getting younger and younger and younger. We're dinosaurs from a wealth standpoint. People are raised with help. They're, and it goes back to Elizabethan times. It goes back to British society. It goes back to princedoms. It goes back to having nannies. And if you go back to British royalty, that's where it starts. There's so much wealth and opulence and extravagance, not in a negative term. Again, there's the Puritan, oh, you're extravagant. Oh, you're wasteful. Well, that's all said by people who don't have money. People who have money, they don't think in those terms, right? So it really teed me up to be able to understand and to just be with the fact that if you've got a 400-foot motor yacht, who knows what your other 17 houses look like in your chateaus. There is exorbitant, extravagant, again, that's a judgment, extravagant to you and me.
Yeah.
What does that really mean? If somebody's just raised that way, it's just normal, right?
Yeah.
So what I learned really, really early on is just because I might not spend the money, doesn't mean that my dogma should be placed on somebody else.
Did you
And
realize? Did you realize?
I got that early on.
Well, did you realize that you were being set up throughout your life? Because I look at your trajectory, right? So, you start in San Diego, you're around an entrepreneur with your pop. You go to work, you find a love for food. You end up going to Philippi's, you do that. Uncle plucks you out, takes you to Monaco. All these are steps in line for exactly what you're doing now. And when I said that you're a celebrity, literally, like when I talked about you, and we were just even at the dog park, we were talking with Lotzi, and I said something, and she was like, Michael Dreebin, like everyone knows Michael Dreebin, like anyone knows Michael Dreebin, and they understand, and they speak about you as far as your name as a brand that is in line with the Four Seasons, in line with the Mandarin Orientals of the world, in line with those things. Did you realize that you were being set up that way? Did you see it happening? Because you seem like a pretty aware guy.
Thank you for that. I haven't heard it stated as such, so thank you for that. I just want to be with that for a moment, if I may, as I get verklempt. Just to be with that. That's really rich. Thank you. I don't always see myself, often see myself as such. So thank you for that. Repose your question, please.
Well, you seem like a very aware guy.
Yeah.
Right. When I said, were you pissed off when you're peeling potatoes?
Yeah.
Like I think of it as a Karate Kid thing.
Yeah.
Wax the car. Why are you telling me to wax the car? I just want to fight.
Yeah.
I want to learn karate. Wax the car. Paint the fence. During all those times, you seem like you were pretty aware. Yeah. But did you see all these steps? Because when we go from Pops, you washing the cars there.
Yeah.
You go all the way through Four Seasons, then you go on to Morton's, and then you say, hey, I'm going to step out on my own and I'm going to apply all of this. Every person that has you work on their car is so damn fortunate because they get the world brought to them.
Thank you for that. And it's real. It's true. Today I just blew a mind bringing the world for a dead battery, but I digress. So your question is, did I see the steps?
Did you see the steps? Did you know what was happening, or were you kind of? I mean, because
it's by design. I did this by design. Absolutely,
you knew it.
I planned it all. Yeah, I was the
from what age?
I was the master of the schooling. I was the student and the teacher, and I sought it out. That industry is very short-lived, and so my trajectory, my mom jokes that I had 14 addresses in 17 years, and she used to not even put me in her address book anymore because I was just going to tell her I was living someplace else or I had a new job or a new phone number or whatever. So she just knew I'd turn up, which I always do and did.
Why is the lifespan in the hospitality industry as
40 hours a week for 40,000, 50 hours a week for 50, 60 for 60, 70 for 70, 80 for 80, 90 for 90, 100 for 100.
Wow.
So when I worked at Morton's in Miami as a general manager, the big leagues, I worked 100 hours a week, 7 days a week. Every 6 weeks, I'd get a day or a day and a half off. Every 6 weeks, I'd go round the clock. I'd go in at noon. I'd get out at 12, 12:30. I'd go downtown. I'd do whatever the bad things I could find to do. I'd sleep for a few hours, pick up my dry cleaning, and go back in at 12 or 1. I did that round the clock for $1.25. That's just how it is. And to this day, the pay scale's the same. It's hard to make more than $130,000, $140,000, and you are working 100+ hours a week to do that. It hasn't changed in 40 years. If you know anybody in the business, they'll tell you.
Can you go out to dinner or go to a hotel and shut off the side that you know what it takes to be able to make what's happening happen?
Mostly.
You can?
Yeah,
You could just go and enjoy?
Yeah, we went to the Pendry for a
I
couple
heard
of
it
nights.
was-
Yeah,
I
we
heard
went
it
to the
was
Pendry
phenomenal.
for a couple of nights, and it was wonderful. And I've got
Are
my
you-
radar.
is
I've
it
got
going?
my eye.
Okay.
And as a service provider, and more as a guy who's frugal, and I frankly like value.
Yeah.
And I don't mind paying for it. And I want value, so I've got my eye out, and I'm an angular kind of guy. I'm looking for the angle, and I want the most for the least. And I'm with my girl, and I want to show her a good time. And if I can cut an edge or a corner here and there, I'm happy to take a look at that. There's a time and a place, so I turn it off, but I also have fun with it. Like an orca with a baby seal sometimes. I really enjoy. I'll kill when I'm not real hungry sometimes, just because I want to play. So I turn it off. But I still am playful and got my eye on it all. And yeah, I can turn it off.
What's a crazy over and above for you? And I'll give you an example. I had a guy named Patrick, and this kid was unbelievable. He came and worked with us at the front desk. He now is touring all over the world with rock bands. He's on fire. But I was really excited about the white hot chocolate in Chicago. It was wintertime, and our staff had got white hot chocolate, and they gave it to me for the first time. They were making a big deal about it. I tried it, and I was shocked. White hot chocolate, it was so good.
Yeah.
So I started saying it to every guest. You got to have the white hot chocolate. You got to have the white hot chocolate. Well, I didn't realize that the staff behind me, after me saying this throughout the whole day, was behind me like, shut up, we don't have any more.
Yeah.
Well, as opposed to Patrick saying, we don't have any more, he told the guest, will you excuse me for a moment? He ran out the back door in Chicago winter, ran a block and a half to Starbucks, got the white hot chocolate, brought it back in the back door, put it in one of our cups, not in the Starbucks cup, delivered it to the guest, and never told the guest that he went out the back door. Right. This was a level of service that it may have been a little thing, but it's something that I've celebrated for years and years and years. Yeah. What's something that specific for you that, for me, it became more of like a sport. I wanted to have those type of experiences so I could celebrate them at the highest level.
Oh, really?
Give me a Michael Dreebin over and above shocking experience.
On the spot. Oh my gosh. The one that my memory is not as great as it was. The one that pops up in this moment was the rewind. I come back from Europe. I go to college. I get out of college. My first job was at the LaGuardia Marriott Hotel. I get out of the laundry, and now I'm in room service. And I'll never forget a call at 2 a.m. Because I was working the night shift in room service, and it was a 24-hour hotel. Guy calls down, needs a Deering is the brand of double-edged scales, and he had a couple of pounds of Coke, and he needed a Deering scale, and he needed razor blades, and he needed he gave me over the phone a list of paraphernalia that he needed in the next 45 minutes, and there was $500 in it for me if I could get it in the next 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the one that that comes up a lot. Yeah. And the other one that comes up a lot is, and it sounds like an indecent proposal, but throughout, whether I was at the Four Seasons, women would just constantly want to test their, what they can make the help do too, what they can request of the help. And so I had to get on my knees more than a time or two for the women in my hotel days. Absolutely. Just because it was their hot chocolate moment.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. And everything else is trivial.
Yeah.
I guess from a remembrance, from a souvenir standpoint.
So when you go from Four Seasons in San Francisco, and then you go to Morton's in.
Actually, so there was.
Was there some in the middle?
Oh, there was 5 in the middles.
Really?
Yeah.
Why'd you leave the Four
5
Seasons?
in the middles.
A lot of times.
Yeah, great question. So, Four Seasons at the time only had I want to say 15 or 16 hotels.
Yeah.
So
Well, they had just started in with their management company too.
they were still privately owned. It wasn't purchased yet.
Well, I'm talking
still
about.
with them.
I was so taken back when I in researching them, because I always thought they were a hotel company, and then realizing that Isidore started
Management.
off. Yeah, he
Yeah,
started off.
they didn't own any of the physical
Yeah,
buildings.
that was
At the
crazy.
time, it was all Chinese, Japanese insurance companies
Yeah.
that bought the properties.
That's
Hedge
crazy.
funds weren't even doing it yet. It was all international insurance companies, AIG, the big Swiss companies. Isidore, would go in development with them. They would develop, and then Four Seasons would manage.
That's amazing, because
Yeah.
and he started off with
Started that trend. I believe.
Do you know what the original name of the Four Seasons was supposed to be?
I don't.
The Thunderbird.
Okay. I don't know that.
I'm so glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Do you know how old Isidore is now?
I wouldn't even imagine him being alive.
I want to say he's still alive.
90s?
You think so?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
I wanted growth,
You wanted
and
growth.
I got out of banquets, and I was hired as a sales manager. So I left food and beverage operations and went into sales, and
For who?
at Four Seasons
Okay.
at the Clift.
Yeah.
And I was at Game 3 of the World Series in 1989 when the Loma Prieta earthquake
Yes.
shook.
Who was
Candlestick.
It was the Giants.
It was the
playing-
Giants and the A's.
Yes.
And I was at that game.
Okay.
They all stayed at the hotel.
Was Dave Stewart pitching
I-
during that time?
Now you're pressing me. I
Okay.
don't know that answer.
All right.
And so I was in sales and wasn't great at it. And it was a very finicky hotel because it was the smallest one, and they didn't have a lot of banquet space to sell, catering space to
Why
sell.
were you opposed to selling, or was it? Just
No,
not
it
your
was a
thing?
tough sell.
Oh, got it.
And I wasn't great at it.
Okay.
I wasn't an experienced salesperson,
Okay.
but they promoted me into sales
Uh-huh.
and room sales, meetings and conventions. So I had the what's called the incentive market and the association market, because they were the worst two, because they were based. The incentive market was all in Minneapolis
Uh-huh.
and St. Paul. And so I would have to go there in the winter doing dog and pony sales calls. And there was Chicago, as the huge associations are all based in Chicago. So I went into sales and started traveling with Four Seasons. And so it was really fun. I had a huge budget, a lot of entertaining, a lot of having to go down on, because it was all women. And the hotel was a tricky sell. All the other Four Seasons had bigger banquet spaces and more rooms. The Clift was smaller. So it was designed for very certain types of executive board meetings and small corporate meetings, but it couldn't handle the big stuff where the big commissions came in. We had the earthquake, the economy changed, the world changed. And so they asked me to open up the Four Seasons Maui in food and beverage in banquets. So they sent me there for 6 months, and I left sales, went back into food and beverage, and opened the hotel for 6 months. Wow. And I was fried on the back end. And having done them, my boss, Stan Bromley at the time, a favor by putting my career on hold, going and doing them a solid, when I was done with that, I said, okay, where can I go next in sales? They didn't find or have a position for me. They just were ready to cut me loose.
Okay.
So I left after 10 and a half years. I was with the Four Seasons, start to finish.
And then where'd you go after that?
I got hired by Taco Bell Corporation.
What?
Oh, wait, no, wait. Four Seasons. I left Four Seasons. Thought I wanted to start a business.
Okay.
Thought I wanted to come back to San Diego.
Uh-huh.
And so if you're familiar with the incentive business, a portion of that does what's called dine-arounds. So if you're a high-end salesperson and you win a trip to San Diego and with your significant, and you get to spend 6 nights at the La Valencia. Usually there'll be one night where people can choose to go to different restaurants off property.
Okay.
So I was the F&B guy. I started a business called Dine-In, D-I-N-I-N apostrophe, Dine-In San Diego. And because I knew all the incentive people in Minneapolis from my sales days, I had the inn where when they booked conventions in San Diego, I would organize the restaurants, 6 different restaurants, the buses, the menus. I would coordinate it all, and I would work with the incentive company to be able to do dine-arounds, they're called, multiple dine-arounds. And so I had this vision that I was going to move back to San Diego after 20 years, 15 years, and I'd be close to my family, and I'd start a business, and it would be amazing. And it lasted about a year and a half, and it fell flat.
What did you learn about entrepreneurship when you did that? Because people learn it.
Think before you jump.
Okay.
Have a better business plan. And the number one thing was the lead time. Because what I really didn't get was from the time I signed the contract, usually the group, the meeting, didn't come to San Diego for anywhere from 3 months to 18 months. So I was booking these dinners for 9 months out, on average. They'd come. I would have to put the money out because they'd give me a deposit up front, but then it was accounts receivable, and it would take 90 days to get paid, and I didn't have the wherewithal or the brains to figure that one out. So I met a woman who I was engaged with, who was a client at the Four Seasons Clift. She lived in Newport Beach. She was the regional director for Chanel training. And she would come up there and train all the girls from Saks and Neiman Marcus and Macy's at the Four Seasons Clift. Her name was Doreen. And Doreen and I became friendly. She lived in Newport Beach. So my idea was to move down to San Diego. Doreen and I would get it together, and then she'd eventually come down to San Diego, and life would be wonderful. So we got engaged. My business, since we had a long distance, Newport Beach, Corona del Mar, San Diego, the business didn't work out, so I wanted to be closer to her. I applied for Taco Bell Corporation, and I got a job as a regional manager, multi-unit manager with Taco Bell. And at this point, it was still corporate owned. It was before Yum. So it was PepsiCo. And so I got schooled in PepsiCo, Pepperdine, MBA, how to run multi-unit. And it was all the, it was very, very high-end, literate, well-educated people who were running multiple Taco Bells. And so they hired me. I did a 6-month training program, starting at the beginning, which I'd done already multiple times, so I knew the MO. They gave me my first restaurant in Tustin Marketplace, and then I was the king of Harbor Boulevard. I had 14 Taco Bells from Newport Beach all the way up into Fullerton, and I ran every Taco Bell for 6 years, doing basically it was like an HR generalist, juggling, spinning plates, running a bunch of Taco Bells. I had some problems and ended up leaving and going to work for a franchisee up in Portland, Oregon. So I got stolen away for the big bucks to go run 30 Taco Bells eventually in Portland, and that lasted for about a year. I hated it. I hated Portland. Couldn't get a date for the life of me. Didn't like the franchise environment. Just wasn't for me. And so I moved back, so I moved back to San Diego, and the girl and I had broken up, and so that was over. And moved back to San Diego, and from there, Morton's loved my multi-unit, multi-franchise experience. So they hired me as a general manager. Been to Morton's,
Yeah,
you know the GM role.
Of course.
Have we ever discussed this?
No.
So Morton's, I was in San Diego, so I did a 6-month training program, starting in the kitchen, learned all the recipes, how to cook everything, learned all the different positions. And when I was done, they promised me that I would be on the West Coast. And when I was done with the program, there were no GM openings anywhere on the West Coast. So I was like, I'm fine. I'll sit here. I'll wait.
Yeah.
So a month goes by, 2 months go by. They had an opening in St. Louis for a GM. I thought, I'm not going to St. Louis. And I was like, well, you need to go. And another month goes by, and they said, we've got a place in Dallas for you. And I'm like, I'm not going to Texas. And so after 4 more months, so it's been 10 months now, I'm just in limbo. They're paying me huge money. I'm in corporate housing, staying in an apartment downtown. I'm running shifts. I'm working in the San Diego property, but they've got a lot of payroll, and budgets aren't good, and they're really edgy. My regional manager came to me and he said, you're going to Philadelphia, and I need you to do it for 6 months. We just fired the GM. We need somebody there tomorrow. You're going to Philadelphia, or we're going to cut you loose. And I was like, all right, I'll go to Philadelphia. And what I didn't know was that that was the only restaurant in the Morton's chain that had lunch and dinner. All Morton's open at 5 o'clock, except for Philadelphia. And at the time, you could still smoke in Pennsylvania. So it was cigar chomping, heavy duty. Every other state except for Florida didn't have smoking bans. So I go to Philadelphia, which the Morton's is located in the Four Seasons Hotel in Philadelphia. So they put me up for 6 months in the Four Seasons. I got to live in the Four Seasons. Rewind, my food and beverage director, when I was at the Clift, is now the general manager of the Four Seasons Philadelphia. His name is Robert Chima. He's still with the system. And Robert and I and a bunch of guys all studied tutelaged under Stan Bromley. So that was a full circle moment when Robert and I caught eyes for the first time. And then, since I'm having a flashback moment, you'll appreciate this. What we didn't cover was when I was at the Clift, it was a breeding ground for executive chefs. And so they would bring in all the young guns. So Mario Batali and Mario was the assistant sous chef for banquets. Mario and I worked together for 2 years. Michael Mina was the pastry chef at the Four Seasons in the day. And so we would go out afterwards and do bad things. Mario, back in the day, was a bad boy. And he ended up getting promoted to the executive chef at the Four Seasons Biltmore in Santa Barbara. And so on my days off, every now and then, I'd go down to the Biltmore and do bad things with Mario there. And there's 3 other very, very acclaimed names that all came out of that same little chasm, because they would sponsor French chefs to come over and, give them green cards to be able to work for them. And with the Canadian connection, French-Canadian connection, international connection. So that's how that came up too. So I have some great Mario stories. Go on and on and on.
I don't know if I've ever told you, but one of my really good friends, he started out, I think it was Bertoli's or it was Spago, one of the two, busing. Ended up going to the Bellagio. It was, what was the restaurant? It's leaving me now, but it's now He has Table One Hospitality.
Okay.
But he's a partner with Michael Mina.
Okay.
And was the president of Michael Mina
Okay.
restaurants. His name is Patrick Hummel.
Okay.
So he was in and out of there, and Michael Mina has actually been on the podcast too.
Excellent.
So I've had
Excellent.
It's
cool cat.
crazy to see the connection points throughout. So from Philadelphia, do you then go to Miami?
Yeah. So, very good. You're good. But we know that. So Philadelphia is over, and they had fired the general manager in Miami. And being that I'm Jewish, they decided they were going to send the only Jew in their stable down to deal with his own people.
Mm.
So I get to Aventura, which is North Miami, to a restaurant that was very, very, very challenged, lots of issues, and had a regional manager at the time who was from Texas. He was an old boy. It was an old boy network, and he wanted his guy to be the GM. He was overridden, and I show up, and it wasn't a great marriage, let's say. It wasn't a great marriage, and I lasted for about 9 months and was fired from Morton's. Was fired from Morton's, which was a blessing.
Did they fire you on the job? Like, did it happen on the job, or did it happen on a day off?
Yeah, so how do I want to phrase? I was fired for sexual harassment before it was popular.
Mm.
I made a comment to an assistant manager that she took offense to, and it went all the way up the top, and it was serious for her, and it was a mistake on my part, and it went all the way to the top, and it was a great opportunity to bounce me from the system, and for my boss at the time to get what he wanted, because we were having a really tough time together.
Yeah.
And so it was a great reason for me to go away, both on their part and my part.
So do you stay in Miami at this time, or you come back to San Diego?
So I'd always wanted to crew on a boat and go around the world. And so
hold on, man. Yeah, I want to grab this little bit. Used car salesman as your pop. Then he starts renting cars. You're washing cars. You work at Filippi's. Your uncle comes and grabs you, takes you to Monaco. You end up there, Switzerland. You come back. You're in New York at LaGuardia. Then you go to the Dunphy. You end up in San Francisco, Philadelphia, Miami. Right?
14 and 17, my mom said. So
14 and 17.
We're getting close.
So when we're going through all these things, where in the hell are you thinking, I always wanted to crew on a boat? I didn't think you were going to be able to throw me for a loop, Michael. I thought I was following along with the story here.
Yeah.
And
I thought I was fried. I thought I was done. I thought I'd maxed out, and it was, again, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I was a partier. I was single. It was difficult to maintain relationships.
Yeah.
My ADHD was full blown, all the above. And I just thought, and all the while, I'd been in corporate housing for 3 years, and I had a per diem for years, and I was making really decent money, and I had zero expenses. So I had amassed, for me, a big old savings
really
account.
frugal all throughout your life.
Yeah.
You had learned that over time.
Totally.
Okay.
I didn't have anything. I worked 100 hours a week. I didn't have anything to spend it on.
Awesome.
So I had saved a bunch of money, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go travel. And what I didn't tell you was between all of these gigs, I would go away for 6 weeks, 2 months, and I would travel. I'd go to Egypt. I was in Kenya, Tanzania. I'd go on these Bali. I'd go on these long trips. And then back in the day, there were headhunters. And so I would fax my resume to, and I knew all the headhunters, and they all knew all the hospitality people. And so I'd fax my resume. And while I was in Kenya, I was getting pinged via AOL.com, right? I was getting pinged to interview for jobs because, you could always make 20% more. So I could work for 18 months, 2 years, quit, travel for 2 months, come back, give myself a 20% raise, and go get a better job. So I never got promoted. I just promoted myself and always just stepped it up. So that's how all these gigs came about. It was all through search firms.
Well, what about the crewing though? When you said I want to crew on a boat,
Well, so
like
I'll get to that. So essentially, I was in Miami, and I was fried, and I was like, I just need to like go do something. So I walked the docks for about 2 weeks. I mean, I was stuck in Miami. At this time, I had an apartment. I had a car. I got fired from a big ass, in my world, job, and it was like, I need a breather. So I thought, well, I'll go down to the docks and I'll get a job and I'll go sail in the Caribbean or whatever. And so I did that for about 2 weeks, couldn't find anything. So I booked a trip to Costa Rica because I wanted to go to Costa Rica. Have you been to Costa Rica?
I haven't been.
There's a little fishing village called Tortuguero, where the tortugas are, the turtles.
Okay.
And I'm in this little fishing village in a little tiny bar, sitting, minding my own business. There's a like-minded, like-aged guy named Captain Mike who's sitting next to me, and I strike up a conversation with Captain Mike, and he learns my story, and I tell him, yeah, I was trying to work on a boat, and he said, really? And I told him, that I want to cook and blah, blah, blah. And he said, do you want to go to Cuba? And I said, sure, I'll go to Cuba. And he said, in 2 weeks, I'm taking 9 friends on my 90-foot schooner from Miami to Key West. We're doing a blue water crossing of the Straits, and I'm doing a sailing regatta in Cuba. Do you want to come and be the cook? And I said, I'm there. And so I finished up my trip early. I come back to Miami. I pack all my stuff. I put it in storage. Mike comes back, and we shopped, went to Costco, got all the gear. His buddies came from all over, and 9 of us did a 2-week Cuba trip. And I did that 2 years in a row. So I've been to Cuba twice. And I have great stories. And to this day, I'm still friends with Mike on Facebook. He's no longer a captain. And I've did these 2 big sailing trips twice.
Yeah.
So
What I keep thinking in my head is you're the Jewish Forrest Gump. Like, to be able to see the things and the places that you've gone to.
This is the manuscript.
This is unbelievable.
This is the manuscript.
And that's why I said you bring.
I needed you to be my ghostwriter to bring this out, because this is the first time, Kelly, that I've had the prompting.
Uh-huh.
I've been told 50 times that I need to get this down on paper somehow, manuscript, something.
Oh, we will.
And I remember as I'm talking about it, but I couldn't just recant it or sit down and write it. So here's the epiphany, because that's going to be your next question. I'm coming back from Cuba. I'm on the deck of the boat. Sun's going down, and I'm like, what's next? What am I going to do?
Beautiful sunset.
Amazing.
Clouds.
What am I going to do?
Was there clouds in the sky? Was there like the Toy Story clouds?
No, it was clear.
It was clear.
It was
everything clear.
It was clear.
Were you getting
sun was on the horizon?
Were you getting the orange and the blue? Do you remember?
No, it wasn't too crazy.
Were you taking pictures at the time?
Nope.
Was it film? Was it film time or was it digital?
My cell phone in the water in a stupor.
What year was this?
This was 99.
So cell phone. If you would have taken a picture on, you wouldn't have taken a picture on the 99 cell phone.
I had a little flip phone. No,
you had the flip phone. Did you have a camera on it in 99?
Not recalling. We're gonna have to suss this one out.
We will. And I think at that time we had cartridge film, not actual film. We had. You remember remember when it turned to cartridge?
In phones?
No, in the cameras. There was a cartridge that you put in, and it had the film in it, but you didn't actually have to preset
so you know what? Thank you. So I had a camera, and I do. You know what? I have
we have?
I have pictures of me on the dock with a marlin eating sushi, raw.
Do you have it here at the house?
Uh-huh.
You're going to have to get me the picture.
I do.
Okay, so
I do. So
you're having you're on the boat. There's no clouds. Is it orange and blue, or is it orange and?
I'm going to have to revisit that with
Okay.
you. I'm not recalling, and I don't want to make it up.
Is it halfway down? Is the sunset
On the horizon.
It's right on the horizon? Is it just about to go?
On the horizon.
Okay.
And I asked myself, what am I going to do?
Mm.
What's next?
Had you been drinking?
Nope.
No. Just clear.
Totally clear.
Were you full? Like, had you eaten dinner and were you full?
Can't answer that. Don't
Okay.
recall.
All right.
But
So,
I'll,
you're
I'll,
super
I'll
clear.
click on it, and maybe tonight in my REM it'll come back
Okay,
to me.
so
Super
you're
clear.
super clear at
Yeah.
this time. You're just enjoying. Is the sea kind of rough a little bit? Because I get a little weird.
Yeah, and I appreciate all your lines of questioning. I'm going to have to cook on that
Okay.
that moment. Otherwise, I'm going to be making it up, and
Okay.
I don't want to appease or make something up for sport.
Okay.
And where my clouded brain is right now is, I was like, what's next? What do I do now? And it came to me that I'm going to go home, and home is San Diego. And I knew that I had to come home. That this was the place to be. My parents lived downtown in the Meridian. They were moving up to Oceanside, and I just knew that I needed to be grounded and near my godchildren and friends from high school, and that I needed to get out of that life, and I needed to leave that life. And in 2000, I came back and started the detailing business.
Where was the thought process in this? Because you could be scarred a little bit because you did
A lot
go
of
to
it.
you started your business
Yeah.
that most of the time.
Oh, cereal.
well,
Cereal. I something else will come to me.
yeah. Well, one of my friends was talking about it. His name is Luke, and Luke was saying, most of the time with businesses, they come down to a couple of challenges. The number one being cash flow, and you just experienced a cash flow problem, right? Because
That time, yeah.
at that time, the cash flow problem was challenging, not because there wasn't cash that you were making the deals, but it just took so long, so you didn't have the
Yeah.
runway to be able to
Yeah.
support it.
And I was in a relationship and wanted to be closer to the girl. And,
Yeah. So all
she was a
those
high
things.
flyer and wanted more money and needed to do something. So a job
Yeah.
was the best bet at that point.
So,
But never lost the entrepreneurial spirit. I just always had worked for big corporations and, didn't know how that was going to evolve, but always knew that it was ingrained
inside
in
of
me.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Seeing Pop do it, things like
Grandparents. My grandfather was a milliner. He made hats.
that. Was there any apprehension when you get the idea? Where does the epiphany for the car detailing come?
Yeah.
Because in my head,
It wasn't epiphany.
as I'm looking at the movie here, Michael, as I'm looking at the movie, I'm visualizing this. I see the car salesman. I don't know what your dad looks like, but I already see him.
Yeah.
He had a mustache.
Me, same hairline.
Seriously, did he have a strong mustache?
Oh, no.
Did he ever
no
wear
mustache.
polyester suits?
Oh, yeah, Sansabelt.
I wanted.
Sansabelt.
Did he
you know
wear
what
them high?
Sansabelt are?
Did he wear them high?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he had a belly, so
So-
just the top of the belly.
I just I want to produce the movie, right? And so I see it. I see this guy, selling the cars, selling the used cars at first. I see him then going into the rental part, starting to expand, and then bringing his kids along, bringing you along, and you're experiencing things and you're seeing different things. Then the uncle comes along, and I already see the uncle. And then you end up in the harems. You were talking about that stuff, and the service and the peeling the potatoes.
Can I do a
and-
timeout?
Yeah.
Stay there. So my father had two partners, and there were two sons, both my age. And my father and I had a challenging relationship, and he wanted me to go into the business, and I never was interested in the rental car business. Plus, my dad was a very difficult human being. And so I ran as far and as long and as away as I could from my family. So when my Uncle Arthur said, "You're coming with me," my dad didn't want me to go. My mother was scared to death. and I was gone instantly. And so there's another piece to that puzzle. I didn't get into the family business. The other two sons did, took it over, made bank, squandered it, lost the business. Luckily, my father and his partners owned several of the properties that when they sold their business to Alamo Rental Car. Alamo was in Florida. Alamo bought my father's business. He retired at 42 and never worked another day again.
Wow.
And so the boys stayed with the company, squandered their money. One of them became a dealer out at Pachanga, and the other one dropped off the planet.
Wow.
And I was the only one that lived to talk about it, not having been in that business. So that was a little adjunct piece to why didn't I go into my father's business and be entrepreneurial, which is what sparked it.
Yeah.
You know, the discussion just now. So
Well,
sorry.
but
that was a sidecar.
No, it's a good thing. And as I'm looking at it, like literally the Jewish Forrest Gump, like, and I'm not saying like, it's just the adventures that you've been a part of.
That's what it was.
And it's the stair steps all the way through.
So it wasn't the epiphany of the car detailing. It was the adventure of blindly jumping into the pool.
Yeah.
What's next?
But why car detailing?
Yeah. So my father subsequently opened another rental car company.
Okay.
And owned the property down on Pacific Highway right by the airport.
Did he have a non-compete when he got bought by Alamo?
Well, this was years later.
Okay, got it.
And he had like 30 or 40 cars in the fleet. And there was a guy with a truck and 6 Hispanic guys that would come around every 3 weeks to detail all the cars. And so when I came back, I had all this myriad of experience.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, now what am I going to do? I'm in San Diego. I want to start a business. I have a bunch of bank. I can do whatever I want. I have a blank palette. I just knew I didn't want to wear a suit. I didn't want to work for the man. I didn't want to work at night. I wanted to control my own destiny.
Got it.
I wanted to make as much cash as is humanly possible. I wanted to be under the radar. I wanted a white picket fence, a lovely wife, maybe have some kids. I was 40 when I came back, still in that window. What am I going to do? And so I knew what I didn't want. And so I started looking at businesses with business brokers. And I looked at, at the time there was Kinko's, and I looked at a dry cleaner, and I looked at various service businesses because I had service business experience.
Yeah.
And my dad one day said, there's this guy, and he's got a truck and a bunch of guys, and he comes and he talks on the phone and he tells them what to do, and he charges me a boatload of money, and he's got 17 other accounts that I know of. Why don't you go talk to him? And so I talked to the guy, and I thought, maybe I could do this. And then I got the idea, maybe I'll go to the vendors who sell all the equipment and the chemicals, and I'll see if there's a business, a detailing business, somebody for sale, a business for sale. And maybe I can just buy an existing business and manage it. I've been managing hundreds of people for the last 20 years. I can do this. And so one of the vendors was out in El Cajon. I go out to El Cajon, and on the cash register was a little sticky that said truck for sale. And there was a guy here in La Costa who had 2 vans, 2 trucks, and 4 employees, and he was selling one of his trucks. And the lady gave me the sticky, and I called the number, and I met Jim DiGaetano. And to this day, Jim DiGaetano and myself are friends. And he was my mentor, my coach, my friend, and best buddy, and he helped me get started in the car detailing business in 2000. And with that, can I go pee?
Yeah, you can.
All right.
Yeah.
Take a time out.
Take a time out. Go. I'm going to keep on. I'll keep on going as you
keep
go.
talking.
Yeah, keep going. But
Where's-
no, it's actually, you know what? If you drop downstairs and it's all the way to the back, so it's right underneath us. Yep, sounds good. The cool thing here too, yeah, I think the cool thing here is now when I when I said about Michael being the Jewish Forrest Gump, you can see the correlation. You can see the correlation with the service industry and how these little stair steps over time have just been unreal. That's his. If you're seeing it right now, that's his chair. That's not occupied, but we're gonna probably cut that out. But it's incredible to be able to see how each and every piece comes into the service industry and how it goes. You know, I mean, think about this from a standpoint of starting in San Diego, doing things that you maybe don't want to do, you know, being willing to be able to do the work, stepping in at a, you know, always staying a student, which I think has just been an amazing part of the story that for me I take away. I understand it, I see it, and at every level, and for me, experiencing Michael's service, it's unlike anything that I've experienced. I mean, I've been around cars with my pops for years. You know, growing up, I was raised on cars. I was raised on working on cars, things like that. But the level of detail that Michael goes through, and the level at which, that's the thing that I want to talk about with him next, is the you know, the elite side of this business, because there's so many people that get into a business and they just look at the masses. They're not looking at a specific type of either person or account. They're just looking at, I just need to do as much as humanly possible. Whereas with Michael, when I started, and Michael, now you're going to hear this, is a lot of people start out with a business and then they refine it down. So they start out and they say, I want to have 1 million clients. And then they refine that down, they refine it down. Because of your experience, did you go into the elite market immediately? And did that make sense to you? Or was it a process? Because you're not the guy that is for everyone.
True.
And you're okay with that. You're completely fine with that.
By design.
Okay. Was that from design when you first started when you got the truck? When you got your first truck, was it by design that you wanted to go after the same kind of clientele that you were dealing with the restaurants and with the hotel?
Absolutely. Upper echelon, moneyed.
Why was that?
What I've learned is if I manage myself properly, appropriately, the more money people have, the easier they are to deal with. The less money people have, the more difficult in general they are when it comes to providing a service. People who are punching up, in my experience, can have very unrealistic expectations, either A, because they've never had their car cleaned before, or they've never been to a nice hotel or a nice restaurant, and now they're paying all this money. They can have unrealistic expectations or just not balanced, or they just don't have a frame of reference of what their what the expectation or what the service being provided is versus an expectation. There's a huge disconnect.
Yeah.
People who have great wealth have had their cars cleaned. They've had good, bad, and everything in between. And so they're going to know instantly that it's good, because just like in the hotel business, I have to deliver at a really high level, which I just do.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty confident that I'm going to do my part of the equation. So they're going to be happy and they're going to be easy and they're not going to say anything, because I'm just going to deliver and it's going to be fine. And wealthy people, frankly, who just want their car clean, they don't want to kibitz with me. They don't want to have conversation. They don't want to know about, you know, my dog's name. They just want their car cleaned and shut up and do your job and, you know, away with you. So it was easy. I knew that I wanted to work smarter.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work less. I knew that I didn't want employees. and I said just before my break that I knew what I didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to work nights, weekends, holidays. Didn't want to have to shave if I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Right. I had a list of what I wasn't going to do because I've been doing that my whole adult life.
Okay.
And one of those things was I was fried for managing people.
Hmm.
So I didn't want employees. So I needed to learn the craft, and I needed to be the best I could be at the craft, like you are at both of your crafts, all of your crafts, and then just refine that down to a very, very refined, by design system where the funnel goes. I have to have a really big funnel to get people in my orbit, and then that gets whittled down to the ones that'll frankly pay the price and who are thrilled with what I do. Oh, and by the way, will let me do it on a regular basis.
What is the, if you want to bring your microphone just a little bit closer to you, you'll do that. Yeah. What is there certain types of cars? Now I see it where, say for instance, I mean, there's certain people that drive a certain kind of car. There are uber wealthy that say like friends of mine from Las Vegas that you would never know. They own hotels and, all those things. And they would have a Tahoe that was nondescript.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a certain type of car or is it a certain type of person?
That what?
That you're generally working with?
So I'm all over the board. No, there is no specific type. I will, for my hourly rate, and if the client falls within the scope of the work that I'd like to perform, if through a series of questions and triage, we determine that we're going to have a great experience together, I'll work for anyone and I'll clean anything and I'll go most anywhere.
But most of the time, that's going to eliminate. I mean, it does, which I think is a good thing. And I think
But with the age of, I'm going to interrupt you, with the age of the internet and with my phone ringing, 4 to 12 times a day, anything can happen. Yesterday, a young woman did hot yoga 2 weeks ago. Her car sat, she got mold everywhere, and she did a search for odor mold removal, San Diego. She called me out of the blue, and I ran down to La Jolla and, spent 4 hours cleaning the interior of her car. So that was random, and it was a Corolla.
Okay.
Excuse me, it was a RAV4.
RAV4.
Yeah, a 9-year-old RAV4 that she should have got rid of 5 years ago. So it worked. The formula worked.
Got it. But they got to fit inside the formula.
Yes.
It's got to fit in. I love this side of formula because it creates a non-emotional side. I think as a kid growing up, I thought because we grew up without money, I felt in my head like we're going backwards here, rewinding a little kind of Quentin Tarantino-ish. When you talked about you used a word, it was the dogmas, but you used, did you say moray?
Mores.
Okay,
yeah.
so
social mores.
So social mores. I hadn't heard that before, but the social mores on mine was like, I thought that the financial part was always a part of the discussion. And as I grew, I realized that in the place that I wanted to live and the service that I wanted to provide, that wasn't the number one thing. It was I going to be able to deliver on the type of service that they wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Do you think that's always the case?
No, but it sounds good.
Have you ran it? I mean, because
Wealthy people, like I talk about money before they do.
Yeah.
90% of the time, I bring it up, but I always know the strata that I'm dealing with when they ask me, or I tell them what my rates are. But wealthy people just say, and it doesn't matter what kind of car it is. They talk to me. They say, "Come. When can you come?"
Yeah. And they're not worrying about that part.
They don't ask.
Yeah.
However, I don't ever show up without laying out the parameters just so there's no surprises. I do that for myself, for my own protection. And it's also where I come from, right? I mean, I don't go to a restaurant and open up the menu, and if there's nothing in the column, I don't just order. I'll ask the server, hey, how much is the special?
Yeah.
I really want the rack of lamb with the crab claws on top, what's that going for tonight? And it's an awkward conversation, but I don't just say I want the lamb and the crab. Is it 69 or 99 or 149? Like that's going to affect my decision making. So I bring it up before a lot of times the clients will.
You talked about.
Did I answer that?
Yeah, you did. You talked about earlier a couple of stages in the restaurant, and then you talked about them in the hotel with the 8 stages and we've found 6 of them, but we'll figure out the other 2. We'll figure those out. And then in the hotel, it started with the laundry, and then you kind of went through those things. What were those stages when you came into the detailing world?
Yeah. So Jim allowed me to work for him for 2 months for free by my choice so that I could be exposed to what he does so that I could see and he could see if this was a fit for me. And Jim didn't want anything from me.
Had you already bought the truck?
Nope. Didn't do anything.
But I think here's the interesting part, Michael, is that what you didn't say is because you set yourself up financially and you were frugal that way and you set yourself up in a place, you had the runway to be able to take that on. You said 2 months? Did you work with them for 2 months?
I did, yeah.
For free?
Correct.
But the crazy thing is all the steps that had to be in play for you to be able to do that. You had to be frugal in your life to be able to have the type of money that you could go to and say, I'll work for free, because you had the freedom to be able to do that.
Correct.
And it blows my mind. Where did you get your humility from? Because most people aren't willing to do that, even if they could financially. Their ego stops them. What keeps your ego in check?
Kelly, when I worked for Morton Steakhouse, I'd be wearing a tuxedo. It'd be New Year's Eve, packed restaurant, and somebody would take a dump in the toilet and make a mess, and I'd be in there mopping it and cleaning it in my patent leather tuxedo shoes, mopping up badness. And my whole life, I have been a man of service. I have cleaned people's muck, and I have provided service. I mean, it goes back to past lives. I've done past life regression, and I was a feudal landowner. I was a bad feudal landowner, and I was not nice to my serfdom, my fiefdom. I was not a good person. And I've come back in this life as a man of service.
Oh.
And so I was born to be of service.
Wow.
And it manifested itself with that paper beef at the Chinese restaurant to become a cook.
Yeah.
And a chef, and then a hotelier, and then a car washer dude. And it's just a man, it's a man of service. After the hotelier
part of it, you're going into the restaurateur part. You step into that part.
Yeah,
so
a man of service. So that's the humility piece. And I was always, my dad always, because I was cocky and confident, and he would always, I just hear it today, he would have been 91 today. Today is the anniversary of his death.
Oh, his death, okay.
Of his death, yeah. Well, no, it's his birthday.
Oh, it's his birthday today.
Today is my father's birthday.
It is?
Yeah, it is.
Happy birthday, Pops.
It is. Shelley. Thank you for that.
What are the stages of the detailing business?
Well, so the humility was my father telling me constantly, be humble, be humble. My mother's father, my grandfather, around money and frugality, they all came out of the Eastern European pogroms and being, Russian, what is now Ukrainian, chased out of Europe, forced to come over here, scarcity mentality out of World War II. You hoard, you hold on to, you don't waste, and so I was raised with a scarcity mentality. And so when you talk about, savings and frugality, I'm the first one to go buy a really nice pair of Cole Haans and this, that, and the other, but I make sure that all my other ducks are in a row financially. So I love to spend. I love the opulent. And I don't know your lifestyle real well, but I know you like really, really wonderful, nice, extravagant, fun things. And I'm imagining, and I don't know this, but I'm imagining that behind the scene, you're not the duck under the water with your legs going too fast. I'll bet you have a nice, even keel under the water too, is my guess. And I too have that keel under the water and this duckling on top. So your question, back to the stages of detailing.
Well, it was the stages of detailing, because I love this. And when you had stepped away for a second, what I was saying is the thing that's fascinating. I mean, there's so many things that are fascinating, but one of the major things is that you're constantly allowing yourself to be a student.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you went back into the detailing business, it's not like, I mean,
I didn't know it. But
you had service, you had those things, and those are principle based and they can be used.
All of it's applicable.
Okay.
It's just learning a craft, whether it's tourneau, whether it's cooking, whether it's managing, whether it's employee evaluations, whether it's depositions in court, whatever. You learn the mechanisms that one needs to for the position, but there's the overarching piece to it. And so being a student, I knew that I could do it. So I had the unbridled confidence or stupidity, whatever. If you said to me now, would I have chosen to be a car detailer 20 years ago? The answer would be absolutely not. Absolutely not. I could have got my Series 7 license and went and sold long-term care insurance or life insurance and had a book of business and been sitting at the Maui house right now from being really, really good at being personable and selling insurance that renews every month without me doing anything, right? So I could have made some other choices, but being the man of service, maybe it's my destiny that I figure it out. I keep working.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is there, or what are the components within the car part of it, or is it applicable that way, where you start off with the tourneau and then you move on to the dishwashing and then
it's the physical act of learning.
What'd you learn first in detailing a car?
Yeah, how to wash a car.
Okay.
So
the actual washing.
Jim's system.
Got it.
To wash a car. Just like when I think I worked with you a little bit about washing the car. If you remember, from the thigh down, right? You get all the dirt off of the lower portion of the car first. You do the rims and the wheel wells and the tires, and you get everything around, in my case, from the thigh down, and then you start at the top and pull all the water down. So again, just like the continuum in the kitchen where the food gets ordered and brought in the back door, same but different. And that's the through line here, same but different. You learn the system, and that's what my early training, apprenticeships, training programs always were. You start out at peeling potatoes, and you work your way up to making sauces. You start out washing cars and learn how to apply ceramic coatings. Same but different. It's just being open to the process, but applying. I think this is the answer to your question. That's the connectivity here, is applying the same principles of foundational development. Just like an architect learns to build a home, you dig the hole, you lay the foundation, you put the rebar, you do the frame, you get the drywall, the roof, the windows. It's all the same, but different. There's the application, I think.
I think one of the strongest thing that you could
with
ever
good
have,
training.
Yeah, with the good
and
training.
mentoring.
I think one of the strongest things that you could have in a business, what I've learned over time, is an educated guest. Not an educated guess, but an educated guest. A person walking through the door that already understands what to enjoy, right? And I learned this a couple of different ways. One from my son. We went to Target one time. We walked through the aisles, and my son started naming off all the toys and where they were, what their use was. And I was like, when have you been to Target in the last 2-3 weeks? He's like, I saw it on YouTube. So YouTube was educating him. By the time he got to the store, he was already sold. If you had the opportunity to be able to educate your perfect guest and give them, if you know this, this, and this about detailing your car, by the time you get to me, my job is simple. I'll give you another example. I have a guy, his name is Wayne. I'm working with him as far as consulting with his company. And we talked about this educated guest thing. So he has 42 locations as far as salons. And I said, what would it mean to you if every one of your guests just bought shampoo and conditioner from you and one styling aid? Because everyone in the world uses at least one styling aid, shampoo and conditioner, just 3 products. I said, what would it mean to your company? Well, in 42 locations, what we worked out was it would be $5.6 million in revenue. If the guest understood how important it was to the lifeblood of that company to just buy shampoo, which they already buy, conditioner that they already buy, styling aid that they already buy, but they just bought it from them. Mm-hmm. And
like Ann does from you.
So we talked about that because his guests just didn't know it. It wasn't that they didn't want to. It wasn't that it was too expensive. It wasn't any of those things. It was just that the guests didn't know. And he said, well, yeah, if they knew. So in Michael's world, in Michael Dreebin's world, how would you educate the perfect client to understand what your car needed?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
Does that make sense?
I do it daily. My role when I talk about being a man of service, my role is that when somebody calls me for a potential service experience, and I triage by a series of questions what I believe they're looking for, what's best for them, I immediately ask a series of questions and then go into education mode. And I tell everyone, whether it's me or anybody else, this is how I would approach the scope of this job. And so I constantly just want to come from a place of education, not attachment. And that's what frees me up to not be hungry or desperate or wanting the money or whatever adjectives you want to use. I just want what's best for you because as a man of service, that's my job. And it may not be me. And my wife laughs at me 10 times a week because I talk myself out of so much business that if I just shut my mouth and said yes, my revenue would be 30 to 40% higher annually for the last 20 years. But there's a lot of folks that call me thinking that what I have to offer is what they need, but they just haven't been educated and don't know enough and haven't had somebody like me to go, you know what, I think you can get this over here. You know, and a great example is I get so many people that say, you know, my lease is up next month and I need to have my car detailed because I don't want them to charge me. And everybody thinks that if you don't turn back an immaculately clean car, they're going to charge exorbitant amounts of money. Well, I happen to know a different story on that. I happen to know fact. And so I can ask somebody 6 very quick questions to say, go to the car wash, spend $39, take it back, and it's going to be okay. I promise you, I pledge to you, do not spend the money. Do not clean your car. And then if they say, well, and what I say is, if you're the person who has pride of ownership and you want that car to be the best it can be, because that's who you are, then absolutely, I am your guy and we can continue this conversation. Mm-hmm. But if you want to save yourself $500, oh, by the way, what car are you getting? Oh, I'm getting a new Range Rover. Well, let's think about protecting that because that's your investment. Maybe you could spend the money that I'm saving you on the dirty car that's going away, and maybe we could apply those resources toward protecting your new car because that's where I really can come in. And so I get to educate people, and most of the time, Kelly, it's not me.
Yeah. Well, that and I respect it, and it's
so
one
that's
of
the educated guess.
Well, but the educated guess, that's when they touch you, right? But let's talk about the latent audience. That if you could say, your processes are phenomenal, but if we could say this goes out to the world, 3 or 4 things that a person would know about their car that would educate them before they ever touched Michael, that would make your job so much easier and take one of the steps away, the triage, and not have to
Interesting.
go. So my son, when he goes into Target, he's already gone through, he's already a warm guest. He's not cold, he's
Right.
warm. Imagine, I mean, I'm just thinking of,
This is big.
I'm just thinking of like, okay, Michael sometimes deals with a cold client on the phone. Am I correct?
All the time.
Okay.
Mostly.
If Michael dealt with a warm client or even a lukewarm or even a already hot, ready to buy, my son, when he goes to Target, he's already ready to buy.
Yeah.
What would be the things that I should know about my car that would just get me warm, that when it's time, I'm just going to see Michael
If you
Dreebin?
maintain, i.e., wash it on a regular basis.
Are there things about washing it that the normal person is doing that is probably not the greatest thing in the world?
There's a myriad of things, but I'm going to just top line and say whether you're a car wash guy, whether you're a Soapy Joe guy, whether you go to the dealership, whether you do it yourself, wash it regularly is number one.
Okay.
Don't go 3 months, 6 months.
Okay.
Wash your car. Vacuum it out. Vacuum it out. Don't let there be food residue.
How do you get inside the little crevice stuff? And I mean, because again, when I experienced the Michael Dreebin experience, I mean, you told me, I'm not going to make your car new. I loved that. That was the first thing that you said to me. You said, I'm not going to use that word. It's not going to be new. And when I got my truck back, to me, it was new. It was, I mean,
that's wonderful.
Unbelievably immaculate. The detail part of it was just, and I grew up on cars. That's the part that you don't know.
It's very rewarding.
But I experienced it. And so this is not me talking from, theory or what do you do, Michael? I mean, I've experienced it. So we got the washing it. We got the, vacuuming.
To the best of your ability.
To the best of your ability.
Yeah, whatever
Okay.
that means for you, those are just top line.
Okay.
Top
What would
line
be the
things.
third one?
Stay away from trees. Trees are not your friends.
What about bird poop?
Trees are not your friends. If you get, if there's bird poop or those little yellow bee dots, bee poops.
Yeah. That's bee poop?
It's bee poop.
I didn't
It's
even
viscous. It's viscous and it smears and it bakes onto the paint surface. So my number 3 would be bird poop, or 3 was stay away from trees.
Got it.
4 would be if you get any kind of contaminant like that on the paint, it will become affixed and it could potentially etch into the paint. So do yourself a favor, to the best of your ability, whatever that looks like, get that off safely.
How long?
Or call me to just get that little piece of bird poop off, because I'll do that for you, because that's how committed I am to your paint staying immaculate.
Wow. How long does the poop on the car? Because sometimes my wife will get poop on the car and then she'll be like, oh, I've got to get that done. And I'm like, I was just in my dad training, Pops. He saw poop. He was diving to wipe that thing off. Is there a certain amount of time? Is it 24 hours?
Yeah,
Is it 5 hours?
So it can etch. Different paints have different pliability, different softness. Range Rover paint is a lot more pliable and softer than, say, Japanese paint.
Okay.
So they're all different. Environmental conditions make a huge difference. Are we out in the hot Palm Springs sun where it's baking and it's 180 degrees baking that bird poop onto the paint, or are we down in La Jolla Shores where there's a marine layer? So there's a lot of variables. There's no one specific answer to the question.
Okay.
It's as soon as you can do it.
Okay.
It's being mindful and being cognizant if having a immaculate paint finish is even in your orbit. Because it's always about your own expectations and what you want for yourself. So to bottom line it and say these are the 5 things that the world should know, half the world, people can have a $200,000 car and leave it filthy and it's okay for them, but they can't stand a dirty toilet seat in their house.
Sounds good.
Right? So it's always about your own discerning nature and what your buttons are. And so we see what we choose to see from a lot of perspectives, but from a filth, dirt, from a cleaner guy standpoint, it's what you see and what you don't see and what your aggro levels are and what they are not. Now, if you're hearing your pops and you're having flashbacks, PTSD about bird poop, you got to get that done.
Yeah.
My best clients are women who were raised with a car-centric father that were hell-bent on making sure that their little girl knew how to take care of a car. And from the time they could go out there with their pops and do what he did in the garage to keep that car immaculate, those women have the tape in their head and they are insistent, they're neurotic about gotta keep the car clean because all they hear is their daddy's stuff. And they're my best clients because they love their father and their father taught them, and that was connection time. And that's really what it's about, is the connection time. And so I see that coming a mile away when on the phone in the first 5 seconds, you know, I got to get this done. And I'm like, your dad taught you that, huh? Oh yeah. How'd you know? You know, so there's so much psychology, and I love the psychology of dealing with people. And oh, by the way, I clean their cars, but the real joy is the psychology and getting to know them and getting to understand them. And at times today, be a little cocky and have fun with it and be playful around it. And again, not attached, because if it's not me, that's okay. It'll be somebody else. If I can give you a nugget and it helps you on your journey, then I did my job.
Did it help you to have an aversion to cars? When I say this, I had a couple of friends in the valet business, and one of my friends, his dad owns a lot of he owns the largest valet company in Las Vegas. And from him driving a bunch of cars, it almost just killed the thought of, not in a bad way, but in a way where it desensitized him to the vehicles where he wasn't putting his value on what car he was driving.
You're really good, Kelly, and in so many ways. And when I just spoke to the psychology of it, I mean, that's next level MBA stuff right there. Yes, yes, and yes again. From serving Liza Minnelli when I was 20 to being in a Morton's dining room with the cognoscenti, I was always taught and trained that you don't treat anybody any different, right? We all put our pants on the same way, my father would tell me. And going way back to the car sales day, he was the guy that people would walk in with bags full of money, cash, and say, I want that car. And back in those days, you had to have credit and you had to have bank account. And, you know, my father would always fight with the management and ownership. You know, what would we do with bags of cash? You know, and my dad taught the management that money's money. It's green. We'll figure that out. They want the car. They have the money. They can pay for it. Give them the darn car. Take the money. So we all put our pants on the same way. If you can afford it, you can have it. And so I heard that message long ago, and it desensitized, or better word, it taught me that it really doesn't matter who you are. Liza with a Z, she still has an expectation. We know her story with Judy Garland, and you know, she came from the world she came from. She's a normal person. She's got more trauma than most of us. You know, she still deserves a steak cooked properly and a proper Manhattan if she wants one, right? And so it doesn't matter if it's a Tesla 3 or a RAV4 or a Bentley. I'm indifferent. I am not jazzed. Cars don't jazz me. Oh, and by the way, my father could drive anything that he wanted, and he loved Cadillacs. And so every 3 months, 4 months, he had a new Cadillac. I grew up with 19-foot long, brand new, 64, 69, 72, Cadillacs. And my mom had amazing cars, and cars were nothing in our family. Nothing. It didn't matter. It was like, oh, there's another one. I never liked cars, could care less about cars. And to this day, I love an Aston Martin. I love the stitching. I love the bespoke. I love the burlwood. The British cars really, when I get into a British car, I love them. I've cleaned a Bentley last week, and like, I'll just sit there and go, this is cool. And if I had carte blanche, and chose to afford it, that's the first thing I would do, is get a little Bentley or an Aston, just because of the materials.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, I don't see it. I'm careful, and, but I'm careful in a Corolla. I'm careful over here because I still have to do the right thing.
Well,
did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's I think it's incredible. The people who
I
have
care less.
Well, the people who have the opportunity to be able to work with you, like I said, you bring the world to them through this service. And whether it was in the hotel industry, it was in the rental car business early when you were washing cars with your dad, whether it was through the restaurants or the hotels or any of those things, or now in the detailing side, it's phenomenal because it's very seldom that you get the world brought to you in that scenario, And I think it's
great way to look at it.
I think it's really, really cool. I started the podcast, Michael. I don't know if I ever told you, but I began this whole thing because I wanted to take iconic people, and I wanted to help my kids to realize that I didn't ever want them to worship idols. I just wanted them to be inspired by iconic people like yourself, right? And so I wanted to them, and I've had the process of taking all my heroes and turn them to be human and to be able to see their stories. So what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna, which you see all the time? And if you could call yourself Uncle Michael, it would be awesome. And you have to use their names too.
Sure. What would Uncle Michael bestow or convey upon Maddox and McKenna give me a little more to go on as
whatever you wanted in your life. You literally, your movie is phenomenal. I can already see it. But I want to, when you think of a movie, producing a movie, I think of exaggerating the characters. I'll exaggerate your dad. I'll exaggerate your uncle already. I see him.
Caricatures.
I see him.
Yeah. I see life in a caricature too.
My God.
I love the caricatures. And so I see a lot of my life as exaggerated. So I appreciate that analogy.
Well,
I have a 36-year-old niece, and I do my best to not use the A word, the advice.
Advice, yeah.
And a lot of times that's just a default word that a lot of people use. Thanks for the advice. Uncle Mike, she calls me. Thanks for the advice. Thanks for the advice. And I kind of recoil because I don't want to be that guy giving, my dogma, my vision, what I think you should do. And so I try to come from a place of my life's experiences, and if I can apply it to whatever I'm speaking to Maddox and McKenna about, I would be engaged with them on a subject. And then if I found a little something that I could poke at, I might just impart a something around an experience that I've had. And if they get it, they get it. If they don't, they don't. That's okay. But to answer your question, because I'm not going to leave you hanging, I get to see your daughter from a distance, just kind of more coming and going, and as a teen, living her life. She's got going on what she's got going on, and I bless you for just holding space for her and that, because I can't imagine, having not done it, what it's like to keep trains on tracks with kids in general. So I would, if I had to throw out a judgment or kind of a snapshot, I would advise both your kids, and Maddox is amazing at this, is eye contact and connectivity with everyone that we come in contact with brings in a receptivity. And I find McKenna's busy, and I'm always kind of trying to get her to look, and I don't ever believe that she's doing anything other than in her own head and staying focused, usually driving, which is what we want, Dad.
Yeah.
So I don't need her to be waving at me as she's driving down the street. I would love and offer some eye contact and some connectivity, because I'd love to know her better, and that would help me be more comfortable. Your son nails the hello. He has conversation. How's your day? He'll make a comment about our dog Ruby in a nice way. So in so many ways, his skill set is really beyond that. So my something I would impart to him is, what could he do to take that to the next level? You know, from an engagement standpoint, he's really engaging, and that will go so far in his life. And I encourage young people. You know, my niece is engaging, but I don't want to be. I'm a little triggered by the what would you tell them?
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want to be that old creepy guy that's telling kids what to do.
Well, I think it's amazing, man. I mean, your story, your journey is incredible. Maddox, actually, I told him, I said, his reward, he did some homework in the last couple of days that he didn't do before. So it was like missing assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm going to go over and I get to sit down with Mr. Michael. And when we get done, we're going to go over to Tanner's Hamburgers. Have you been to
Love
Tanner's?
it. Sure, more than a few times.
Ooh, that place is amazing.
Tanner's, how's it going on?
So I get to take him over that way.
Outstanding, and wait in line this time of day.
I know. What is the? I
Are you a
couldn't-
single or double guy?
I think a double, but it's big there. It's bigger. I mean, most of the time I'm like, give me 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to do that. But that's the first place that when I had the double burger,
Mm-hmm.
I struggled to eat it.
It's a challenge. And do you eat fries too with it, or?
Yeah, I do. But I've been
do
eating
too.
less of them lately. But let me.
The
What
reward.
does Anne not hear from you enough?
What does she not hear from me? Oh my gosh. What does she not hear from me enough? So Anne loves acknowledgement and praise and acknowledgement and more acknowledgement. And I could be more efficient at acknowledging at a significantly higher level than I feel I do already, full well knowing it's a sweet spot. Acknowledgement, praise and acknowledgement. She craves and thrives on being seen and noticed and acknowledged and praised for her multitude of good deeds and things she does in her life for me.
What is a specific thing that she's done maybe in the last week that you saw it, but you just didn't say it, but that was really awesome?
Yeah. We do a lot of travel planning, and we're in the throes of planning a trip to Sicily for our 10-year anniversary in September. And she's very, very detailed oriented. She read contracts for a living, and so she sees the fine print. And I'm very meticulous and very detail oriented. However, she takes it to the next level. And when it comes to purchasing, going on bookings.com and Airbnb and looking at reviews and choosing places that we're going to stay, I'll choose something and I'll be really keen on it. And she'll go back and scrub the fine print and find that there's no carbon monoxide monitor. And we don't stay at hotels that don't have a carbon monoxide monitor. right? Because a lot of places internationally with gas don't do that. And you may have seen there's been a lot of Americans that die all over the world from a gas leak. And so that's a non-negotiable, and she'll catch those things. And so she's very, very meticulous for behind the scenes. I changed a State Farm commercial policy for my business and wanted to make some changes, and she was able to help me decipher the contract and help me really understand the ramifications. If I tweak this deductible, then this will happen, and all the way down the line items, and how ultimately saving $7 may not be the ideal thing. And so those types of things she's very, very adept at, and she catches.
Has there been anything specific? You didn't hit me with a specific in the last week.
Yes,
those
absolutely.
were the specifics?
Yeah, we travel planning in the last 2 days, and this morning with the State Farm contract.
This morning was
and
that's
I
amazing.
could give you 5 more.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no,
Well,
just in the last.
We love us some
hours.
Ann. Ann is unbelievable human. You scored. You outkicked your coverage there, Michael.
Thank you for that.
Which is good, man. Keep you grateful all the time.
Thank
man.
you for that.
I think it's amazing.
Thank
But
you,
I
Kelly.
thank you for your time, man. For sitting down. And we're gonna have more time this way. I want to have you on again. But this is just the beginning. And for those of you out there that, when I say this, the detail side of it is, for me, the detail side of it from you is a bonus. It's being able to spend a little bit of time with you, understand your thought process, those kind of things. But I tell you, like, there's only one choice. I mean, when my buddy James reached out, my other buddy Greg, who you did his roles for him, when James reached out, he was like, there's only one choice, and it's the celebrity. It's the guy who everyone loves, everyone knows, and if you know him, you know why. And hopefully the people that listen to this, that they understand what makes up Michael Dreebin. You know what I'm saying? And the journey has just been, I mean, it's unbelievable, man.
Thank you. As my Jewish mother would say, from your mouth to God's ears. Let them all know.
Well, I appreciate it, man. You've been incredible. It's an absolute honor. And Michael, you're officially off the hot seat.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights.